Welcome to Spartan Up Podcast. We're shooting this the day after the 24-hour World Championship Spartan Ultra in Iceland. Incredibly brutal conditions. But today, things are a little bit different. Today we're at the Blue Lagoon. They get literally thousands of tourists here every year, but it feels like today half of them are Spartans. This place is crawling with people tending to their wounds and healing their sore muscles. Yesterday, Joe met with the CEO to find out what it takes to build a business like this that's become one of the biggest businesses in Iceland.
And my fellow submergedness is Iceland Mike. He's part of the team now. We got Johnny on the weight, Sephra, and Andrea, our sound engineer, and Marion faithfully staying in the rain, filming this episode today.
Our producer.
The intrepid expeditionary producer.
We are in Iceland for Spartan Up Podcast, and I am with the founder of a spa you may not have heard of, or you may have heard of, called the Blue Lagoon. His name is, I want to see if I could do this right, because Icelandic is a different language. Grimur Saemundsen. I screwed that up?
No, it's very good.
All right. So you said you started this spa. Do you call it a spa? What do you call it?
Yeah, it's a unique spa concept that we developed, and it's based on geothermal water that we have in the area, which is completely unique and has strong healing powers. And
you look pretty good. So
thank you.
Do you go in every day?
Unfortunately not, but now actually I have my head office in Reykjavik, so I'm not able to go every day. But it's a very unique experience, and we enjoyed a lot of success, especially in recent years. We have had a tourism boom in Iceland. So this year we are having about 2 million, over 2 million foreign guests to Iceland.
How many will come to the Blue Lagoon?
We are getting this year about 1.3 million of those.
Wow. And there's enough room?
Yeah. We actually have developed our facilities quite well, so we are able to welcome all these people to Blue Lagoon. And Blue Lagoon is today the kind of key tourist attraction in Iceland.
For Iceland.
Yeah.
So the government helps support and help you?
Well, that's our luck that we have been able to grow the company without any support from authorities or the government. So this is completely a private enterprise, and I think that's the key to our success, definitely.
By the way, you call it the Blue Lagoon, I assume, because it's blue.
Yeah, I mean the Blue Lagoon is referring to the blue color of the water, and the composition of this water is quite unique. It's a mixture of geothermal water and seawater. So the composition of the minerals in the water, and we have a lot of silica in the water. And then last but not least, we have a unique life system of blue-green algae that live in the water, which have been proven to have bioactive properties towards the skin, positive bio effects.
So this podcast, we're always in the search for how somebody became successful. Not necessarily economically successful, but just successful in life and achieving goals. And some people might look at this Blue Lagoon and say, oh, well, it was easy because you just had this lagoon and you put up a sign for money, and it was very simple for you to become successful.
This was quite a task to develop the concept to be as successful as it is. And we founded the company 25 years ago. I'm a medical doctor by education. And my original interest in Blue Lagoon was the medical qualities of the water to heal skin ailments. And we have been developing the concept both as a medical facility and also for the general consumer. And then also we had developed our own unique line of skincare products. So we have, in my mind, been very creative in expanding the business and using the opportunities that this unique resource has given us opportunity to do.
Hey Spartans, it's Marion coming out from behind the camera. We're going to try something a little different this week for our break. If you listen to the podcast, you know that Spartan is more than just a race. Obviously, we're mindset, we're nutrition, we're a way of thinking, a way of being, and that's what we talk about here every week. But you might not know that there are other places to find out that kind of information about the Spartan lifestyle. So I have invited Tom Hennel to talk to us. So Tom, tell me what you do.
I have the best job at Spartan because I get to oversee what we call our lifestyle initiative. So it's all of our training, it's our nutrition, it's our lifestyle, it's mind, which includes the podcast. And we work every day to research and put together great information about our lifestyle.
So the reason I was hoping to have you on the podcast was to talk about some of the articles that are on the site this week that might be interesting or useful for the podcast listeners.
One of the great articles this week was your 4 biggest fears and how to overcome them. So the 4 biggest fears most people have is failure, change, feedback, and then 4 is confrontation.
So what does feedback mean? That means like you're afraid to find out what people are really thinking about you or what you did?
You know, we like to live in a little bit of denial, and we're afraid to hear what people really think.
So that's interesting that this is overcoming fear because, you know, we had the interview with Kristen Ulmer, who talked about not overcoming fear, but sort of
managing fear, right?
Not even managing. What's the right word? I don't know. Embracing, honoring, something like that.
Honoring. Yeah, I love that episode with Amelia and her.
So one of the things that's kind of cool about the podcast is we often talk to people who have different opinions, and we learn from them all. So she had a really groundbreaking take on fear. But what were the techniques in this article?
Well, yeah, let me give you just one example. So number one, fear being failure. So if failure is your fear and your fear of, you know, maybe a big goal, you know, how do you overcome that fear of this failure? And one of the solutions is to set a series of small achievable goals. Because when we take incremental steps, it's easier than that big breakthrough. And then you get to reward yourself for those small wins as you get towards the big one. So really it's break the goal down into bite-sized chunks.
That makes so much sense. That's like whether it's Mordecai Wiener with Sneakers On, or even we had a climber on the podcast in one of the early episodes who said, you know, you've got to stay focused on the 3 feet right in front of you.
Exactly.
How can people read the rest of that article?
Our website is life.spartan.com, or as we call it, Spartan Life. And again, we publish information articles every day.
Spartans, let us know what you think. If you like the idea of expanding our content on the podcast a little bit and talking to Tom about different articles every week and some of the other things that Spartan's doing, let us know in a comment on YouTube. Reach out to us on Twitter. We're Spartan Up Pod at Twitter and Spartan Up Podcast on Instagram. And we'll see you next week. Thanks, Tom.
Thanks, Marion.
I noticed we're here on a Sunday and you're working.
Well, that was because I was so interested in meeting you. So,
but I'm saying it must have required hard work.
It has been a long journey and a tough one, very tough one, and so we have had our ups and downs, and we had to survive the big financial crash that was in Iceland 10 years ago. Our success is based on the tourism boom that we've enjoyed since the crash.
What do you attribute that to? Why?
One reason is that the famous eruption that we had in Eyjafjallajökull in 2010, where actually all...
A volcanic eruption.
Yeah, a volcanic eruption where we had all the air transport in the world being more or less affected. So Iceland kind of came into the spotlight. And then we have also enjoyed success in that there have been some very famous movies being filmed here in Iceland in recent years. Also, we went into a marketing campaign for Iceland as being a tourism destination, location, and so there are different elements that all kind of came together to support the growth in tourism.
And prior to that, because you started around 1990?
1992 we founded the company.
1992.
Yeah.
You didn't have all that going on.
No.
But you had the vision and the foresight.
Yeah. So we have been both strategic and lucky. like in all good business, you have to have some luck.
Sure. And you're a doctor.
Yeah.
What kind of a skin doctor, or?
I specialized in sports medicine. I'm formerly a competitive soccer player. I tried to join my background in sports and in medicine, so that was quite new at the time. I've always been very entrepreneurial in my thinking. Yeah.
So you could race at the Spartan Iceland race next time.
Well, I must admit that I'm not that kind of a sports person that I'm able to do these extreme sports.
It seems like the people from Iceland are very rugged people, just because the environment's so rugged.
Yeah, I mean, this is a small community. I mean, Iceland is only a community of 340,000 people, but we are a complete society, and it definitely, when you consider the number of the inhabitants in Iceland and what the country has achieved, that's incredible. For example, now we have a team in the World Championships in Russia in soccer next summer.
I heard, yeah.
Yeah, so which is incredible actually, and so there has been some kind of a selection of
special genes
yeah. because Iceland is a very rugged country. Tough place to live in.
This is like David and Goliath. It's you are David against Goliath, the rest of the world, right?
Yes.
But I was amazed. I had heard about the financial crisis hitting Iceland rather hard, and I assumed that you were having a tough time coming out of it. But it sounds like you recovered.
Very well.
I didn't tell you, so I've been moving around the world with my family to help build a business. So 1 year we lived in Singapore, 1 year we lived in Tokyo, now we live in Vancouver. Great. But we were just joking before we started the podcast, maybe 1 year I need to live in Iceland.
Well, that would be a pleasure to have you, Joe.
Yeah, who knows, maybe with the yogurt, I see you have a special yogurt and the water in the Blue Lagoon, I could get younger and stronger.
Well, hopefully.
What recommendation would you give? We like to always ask if 2 or 3 tips based on your life experience that you could give the viewer for achieving goals. So what were the things that you did? Because you had to go through medical school, you had to start this business, get through the financial crisis. What 2 or 3 things have gotten you to where you are today?
These are kind of the elements that every entrepreneur has to have. I mean, to have a vision, to have endurance, to realize that vision, and at the same time be ready to listen to advice, because like we know both that sometimes people can go off the cliff because they're just kind of
so focused.
Yeah, so focused.
Right.
But so it's a combination of things.
So vision, know where you're going, have a vision, right?
Yeah,
because if you don't know where you're going, you're not going to get there.
Yeah.
Endurance.
Yeah.
It's never been said so elegantly, actually. Vision, endurance, and be open to advice.
Yes.
Right? Because people do wear blinders sometimes.
Yeah,
They just won't listen to people.
Exactly.
Right off the cliff.
Yeah. I think we've been very, very lucky, me and of course when you're growing a company, you have to be able to build a team, and you have to be able to delegate, because often the entrepreneur he knows everything best and he wants to be involved in everything, and I think that's one of my qualities, that I've always been able to delegate and to have a strong team. And I think that my background in sports has helped me a lot in that, because I was in a team sport.
You played one role, and you
exactly,
had
and then you had other people that had to fill other roles, and you had to work together as a team. Yeah. And I think business is in many ways as sports, as team sports. You have to be able to build teams and to keep everyone focused on a shared vision and some kind of a shared goal that is the ultimate success that you want to achieve.
This morning I told my team, because they did such a good job putting on the race this weekend, that I had a vision of an advertisement, and there was a picture of a wolf, and then a picture of a golden retriever. And the wolf was the Spartan employees that got this done, and the golden retriever was all other employees around the world, because they were 24 hours in the cold, and they had been working for 7 days and very little sleep, and they did the job.
Yeah, I think that when you sent me, the request regarding the volunteers, and I was thinking about it, and I thought it was amazing that it's possible to get people to work, around
the clock.
Yeah. And around the competition and to support it. And unfortunately, I was completely unable to.
Well, we didn't give you much notice, but just to give you an idea, we do 275 events around the world.
Yeah.
Each event has about 1,000 volunteers.
That's incredible.
And here in Iceland, it was very difficult because it's a smaller country, and they don't know us, and they don't know the event.
Yeah.
But it is amazing that we get these volunteers.
Yeah, I think it's incredible, actually.
Yeah.
And if you're going to do that, you have to create a passion around what you're doing, and that's also one part of building a successful project is to kind of ignite passion into the team that you're working with. And I've been very lucky with that in my in my environment. That my team, they are very passionate about the Blue Lagoon. They are very passionate about what we're doing. So if there is no passion, there is no spark, and then
no fire.
Yeah, exactly. There's no fire.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, this was great.
Yeah.
Thank you very much
Thank you
for having me, and
it's a pleasure.
Yeah, pleasure's all mine.
That guy's a genius. I mean, if you could see what we're looking at right now, it's volcanic rocks with just bryophyte Icelandia. It's spectacular.
In the middle of winter.
In the middle of winter, in the middle of rain and wind and who knows what, but it feels unbelievable.
Unless you are a producer behind the camera, in which case it feels like, when can I get into that beautiful water with those guys? Incredible that when you think that this has become one of the biggest attractions in all of Iceland. And we talk a lot about business people and business philosophies, and that he shared his very simple philosophies, right?
Yeah. Simply just having a goal, a vision. What was the second?
Planning
Planning and patience for it. And
Yeah.
then also being able to take the advice of people who are around you rather than kind of having a sort of monofocus that a lot of times people have. More than half of something like 60% of the tourists that come to this country
And
come
I
to
think
this place.
60% of the Spartans that just ran the Ultra are here today.
luckily.
But there is that planning and patience, especially when you're working within the landscape, that you have to observe and take time to see. The wall in the restaurant that like sweats and changes colors, and like there's such a dynamic, ecology to this ecosystem. As a lichen lover, this is really one of the most spectacular landscapes I've ever been able to walk through and witness.
We have that similar philosophy when we go put on a race, like the race they just put on down the road here. It's you go in and you look at the landscape you have and you say, what can we do with this? What can we create as an opportunity for people using this?
Instead of bringing an excavator in and
exactly. Like we're not a theme park that comes and just builds something totally unnatural. We go in and we say, at this place we have water. At this place we have, and the different races around the world. Like in the desert, it's a very different race than it is in Iceland. It's a very different race than in Canada, and yet they all bring in those natural features that you can work with.
Yeah, and I think just the design inside, the use of local material, and kind of keeping everything consistent with the stone that they use, the wood, all of the wood's the same in the entire facility.
Yeah, and that's
it's soothing just to come into the place.
It is, and that's interesting you said about race directing, right? Because it's like working with patterns and principles. You guys know the patterns and principles you need to instill for the race, and then you just work with it within the landscape, and that goes back to a lot of the permaculture things I always talk about, but also kind of how do you facilitate an amazing experience, and so much of that is aesthetic and tactile, and that's really what healing is. Like, how do you create arenas of comfort, right? Especially in austere and pretty harsh environments.
Well, in all the places that Spartan's been, and we've been to really all around the world now, it's really been interesting this week to watch the fit and to see how much of Iceland and the philosophies and the vibe fits so well with what we're doing.
Thor! Orin! But we had that was an amazing entrance.
We had sort of genuine Viking descendants come and launch our event with a Viking prayer.
No, but it's true. I mean, there's so much lore and mythic tale to this land.
Yeah.
And now all the people who did the Spartan Ultra are a part of that lore, and their story forever stays in the footprints of this landscape. Yeah. And, I think a good theme for this year is meeting yourself, right? And so it's like you meet the landscape where it's at, you meet yourself where you're at, and then you have these questing epic journeys that are created by this amazing...
I think they call them sagas in Iceland.
Sagas.
Well done.
Spartan sagas, yes.
I'm a little bit grateful that it is just the three of us today, because I think if Joe was here, he would have arranged for them to somehow...
He said, sorry guys, our heaters broke. All this it's a cold spring. But I think this is also one of our first episodes where we can say, we're comfortable being comfortable.
That's right. Yeah, actually, that's what Joe needs to do. Joe needs to learn to get comfortable being comfortable sometimes. Yeah. But hey, we just want to say it's been a real pleasure, actually. Yeah. This is such a unique opportunity for us to do our podcast in a little bit different environment. Go to www.spartan.com/podcast. Also, check out all of our podcasts. If you're listening on iTunes, that's great. Subscribe so you'll never miss it again. But also go to YouTube. This one in particular, because there is such a visual component to what we're doing. So
thank you for watching another epic story of success. If you like our message, please share Spartan Up with your friends and subscribe on iTunes, YouTube, or wherever you catch our show, maybe in the woods. Spartan Up is brought to you by Spartan Race. To find a race near you, visit Spartan.com.